Morning, guys.
Morning, David.
Thanks for being with me today. So this is going to be a video for LinkedIn. It's a series called Bangkok Thought Leaders Quarantine Edition. So I'm delighted to have with me today two of the stalwarts of the Bangkok business community. We've got Brendan, the Executive Director of AustCham. Hello, mate. And Ben, the recently elected President of AustCham. Thank you for being with me today, guys. How are you doing?
Very well.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, David.
All right. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for the amazing work you've done for the business community during this period, especially. As an owner of a business, mid-March was a terrifying time for me. I had no idea what the hell was happening. I'm not an expert in viruses, and I've never been through such a crisis before. So I think I echo the sentiment of the whole community in being panicked at that time. And the work you guys have done to calm us down and to educate us and to guide us through this period has been wonderful. You've truly lived your values. I think the connections, community, and business, you've really shown us all how that should work and brought people together, given advice, guided us, tips on how to financially respond, how to emotionally respond. It's been wonderful. So just thank you for that, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, no, thanks, David. And we'll get into it more, but I think it's been interesting from the Chamber's perspective and how to pivot slightly to still have all of our traditional values offered, but in a more digital format, just like we're on right now.
Mm. So Brendan, what was your plan? Because I think I was with you the day of the first webinar. It was us that did it.
It was.
At that time, you were kind of figuring out the plan then. Obviously, the plan has worked wonderfully. What was your method? What was your technique for responding?
It was very much a reactive method, like a lot of people, I think, at the beginning. You'd remember that we were scheduled to be at Glowfish Sartong it was the 18th of March.
18th of March, yeah.
For Lexicon to deliver one of our 10th episode of the digital workshop series, very successful series. And a week before everything was shut down. So we went online. It was appropriate that we had a company like Lexicon, of course, to be able to go online with that series. And as we were talking, what do we do next? Well, we didn't really know. I mean, it's very much reacting to what members need. So our first webinars were around tax measures, HR measures, legal implications, everything that was coming from the government, and our members in those areas, Mazars and Tillicky and Gibbons, stepped forward and said, here's what you need to know from that sector. From there, we developed into other areas that members needed to know, including working from home, working remotely, dealing with the mental stress associated with it, digital marketing, how to adapt to that side of the business. So we really reacted to what our members said we need to know and have gone from there.
Is it a coincidence that all of the things that you've done fit so neatly into the core values of the organization, the business, community, connections? Everything you've done has really had at least one of those things, often three. Has that been strategic?
It's no coincidence.
Yeah,
that really guides our day to day. We have the three pillars: business, connections, community, up on our wall. And whenever I often say with the Chamber, we've got this much that we can be doing and the ability to deliver this much in terms of our resources. So the first thing we do is go to our pillars and ask, does this fit into the business connections community? Does it fit in with our pillars and why we exist? If yes, will it serve the membership base? Will our members benefit from this? And if we tick those boxes, then we move ahead. If we don't, then we don't do it.
And I think whenever we've looked at delivering pre-COVID and then during this situation, that's been something consistent. So I think we've had that always as the way we strategically give direction to the Chamber. So whether we're doing a real life event or now on a webinar, Brendan sort of mentioned it's always, and there won't be always a webinar that's going to appeal to the entire membership base. So we do also try to make sure we're providing different aspects to different subsections of our membership base, because we've got a really diverse membership base, and some are represented by maybe only 10 companies, and then some like tourism, hospitality, manufacturing. So, some of those industries might have 30, 40, 50, 100 members. So it's important to always provide that balance. But I think what's been interesting that I've seen from my perspective, there's been so many deliverables that we've been surprised by people then joining on a webinar that you wouldn't have automatically thought they would. And I think another great aspect of this webinar scenario is we've been able to engage people from all over Thailand, where normally we'd have direct events in Phuket, direct events up north in Chiang Rai, Chiang Mai. Now we're able to deliver the single event and all of Thailand can dial in. Or sometimes, you know, recently we had members that are still in Australia joining on to the virtual sundowners last week, for example, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's been really helpful for all of us to be able to join even the things, as you said, that might not necessarily, I might not have gone to one of those events if it was physical, but it's no effort to dial in and to,
yeah.
I think there's a beautiful simplicity in those core values that I wish every company could understand, because it's a driving force that guides everything you do. And as a result of having it so clear, as you said, it's not coincidence, it manifests itself in the output. So yes, thank you. That's I just want to show my gratitude for you guys. It's been really, really helpful for me as a SME in this time. But it's also been a time of change, right? So Ben, just before this all happened, you were elected as the president. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Did you have any plans for how you would like to see the chamber evolve over your term?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, Dave. I definitely had an idea. If I was to be elected president at the AGM, and I was fortunate to get the support of my board members, that's what they chose to do. And I suppose at that stage, COVID was coming through, but it was growing up. It hadn't yet hit the critical mass that we saw post that. So like my own business in my primary role, and even that on the other boards that I serve, I had to sort of take a step back and reevaluate what we could continue on, what then no longer was maybe a priority, and then as to what areas were a priority, but we had to pivot and change as to how we would deliver that as a chamber. And I couldn't have done it without the support of Brendan and the executive team that assists from the AustCham side, as well as the other board of director members, because we have had, you know, a really interesting time where everything's been done via video calls. We haven't been able to have any face-to-face meetings. So we have had to change the tact a little bit. But to go back to your earlier point, I think when we've got those key pillars within our chamber, at the end of the day, it's all about delivering benefit to our members and to our sponsors. So all that we needed to then be able to do was look at how we could do that in this digital form, and then continue to change. And we are now starting to have discussions at a board level as restrictions ease, as events can then return back, how we can then slowly, in a responsible manner, return back to what AustCham's been famous for decades, you know, delivering great networking events, great social events, as well as, you know, these informational seminars that we're doing.
All right. So I think, as I mentioned in the previous question, the role of the chambers has been pivotal during this moment. I think we've all seen the foundational role that the chambers play in bringing us all together. How do you see the role of chambers after COVID? Is it going to go back to how it was before? Is it going to be a different role for the chambers? Will there be evolution or revolution? How do you see it moving forward?
Look, I don't really see the chambers needing to change that dramatically. And if I actually look at what we've done, we've just digitized and online moved a lot of the aspects that we would have normally delivered. In some ways, we've actually, through this digital delivery, been able to increase the amount of engagement. So I know, looking at the numbers, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but we've almost done 6 to 9 months of worth of events in a period of about 3 months, based on the fact that we can deliver events, pivot a lot quicker. Normally you have to schedule people weeks or months in advance. Now you can usually schedule them within a 7 to 14 day window. But again, the core principles of what we deliver have been important. One area that I think chambers work on a lot in the background, and maybe not all of our members are always aware of, is things that we do on the advocacy level and the things that we do in collaboration with other key chambers. So I think you might have seen on our website, and the COVID page that's been created on our website, which we've got so much amazing member feedback on, because it's been seen as a consistent, solid form of information in a world that we exist where there's so much misinformation around. So it's been great that we get this information validated by a number of sources, primarily from the embassy, but also from other reliable sources. We've then also uploaded recently a letter that we did in collaboration with the FCA. We've now done one advocacy piece, and there's another advocacy piece that we'll be releasing very soon. The initial one was working on what was consistent across our member base really, really early, was providing benefits for their employee base when revenues in the majority of our businesses went from dropped as much as 90, 95%. And in some instances where businesses need to shutter, they had 100% reduction in revenue in literally a 7-day period. So the advocacy letter that I'm talking about, which was done with the FCA, was about asking the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister to reconsider some of the social security benefits and payroll benefits, as well as different areas. And the FCA collaboration is AustCham, AmCham, BritCham, and the German Chambers of Commerce. So in having a collaborative approach with 4 of the largest chambers in Thailand, we're able to then deliver a higher level of advocacy, which will then benefit our members, but of course, in turn, the members of the other chambers.
What is it about those chambers that makes for a good alliance?
Look, I definitely wouldn't say that we're the only chambers that we want to have in that alliance, but they were the 4 initial chambers that I suppose historically have always worked quite close hand in hand. We do also work with other bodies and other chambers of commerce, but formally we did set up the Foreign Chamber Alliance with those 4 chambers. We have created it in such a manner that we need to collaborate. We all need to agree in principle before we then continue on. So I think we've got a great working relationship with all of the executive directors and then with all the presidents. Like myself, all of the presidents this year in all of the chambers have been newly elected within the last 6 months. So we've got this great energy moving forward. And at the end of the day, we all see the benefit of 4 chambers is better than 1 chamber, providing particularly when you're talking about advocacy, because across our membership base, all of us have consistent issues and challenges that we face.
Okay, well, that's great. I work with a lot of those other chambers too, and yeah, you guys are definitely very dynamic, forward thinking. So I'm hopeful for a lot of positive to come from that alliance.
And so apart from the advocacy side is very important, and it is very much driven by our collective board of directors and presidents. And another thing that we do have from each other is that the learning aspects. I think you'll find, if you're looking at the FCA in particular, each of our 4 chambers has different styles just by nature. So some things we do the same, but a lot of things we do different. And we actually meet and talk about what we're doing so that we can learn. If someone else, one of the other chambers has a great idea, we share it to make sure our members are getting the same benefit. So it's a good working relationship on various levels.
Yeah, and I guess there's probably slightly different audiences too. So it's complementary. You all can benefit serving slightly different audiences as part of the wider business community.
And can I just jump on what we're going to be doing next as well? Because post-play, and as Ben mentioned, everything has been digitalised, and it is something that we're going to benefit from enormously. Something we probably should have done prior to COVID, and it's forced our hand, and we're thankful for it. Things like our Phuket members, for example, or anyone outside of Bangkok who are now able to dial in to our webinars when that finishes. If we're doing an event in Bangkok, we might have one of our members in Phuket, say a Barn Rim Pa with Sue Altman, can set up an event and rather than webinar out to everyone, go to this member's hotel and watch the Minister of Tourism give his speech from there. So there's a lot of different things we'll be able to do moving forward.
As well as calling in to view webinars and more people taking part in that, have you seen more members leading, being more willing to share and act as thought leaders during this time? Or has it been similar to the people that were involved before?
It's given us access to be able to do that. We recently started our AustCham Member Focus series, which is a short 30-minute series that allows me to go to our members. With the lockdown, I couldn't wait to get out and go and visit members. And it means we can go in and everyone can be a thought leader. Different industries, how is it affecting your industry? What's on the back of your COVID-19 pandemic? So definitely we've done nearly 40 webinar / meetings since March.
Wow.
And that's allowed us to engage 50 plus members across to give them to share their ideas, to share their knowledge. So it's been good in that respect.
And I think circling back to a question that you said before, Brendan's just given me some more thoughts. One thing that we will be doing differently is exactly what Brendan's mentioned, the ability to now engage with the whole country in single events. We've got some pretty exciting events coming up, including how we might do the embassy event at the end of the year that will engage all of the country as opposed to the people that can only make it into Bangkok. So as Brendan said, one of the benefits of this situation, there's not that many you can take away from, is the fact that it has forced our hands, exactly as Brendan's mentioned, to digitize some aspects of our events. And then as we move back to normalcy, how we maintain that digital feed. Because again, engagement from a video perspective is doing really, really well from our website, Facebook and LinkedIn. So having those digital records of all of those events has been great, because it means if members can't engage due to other commitments, they can, as a member, get exclusive access to that footage or that video or that webinar, which is a great resource and again, delivering a great benefit to our members.
I think key word in all of that is digitization, because as someone who's running a business, I think one of the things that we'd underestimated is the power of digital transformation in allowing new business models to emerge, because we by default had to suddenly track everything and understand the process map better. So we're going to be in a healthier position as a result of this. What positive changes do you think the business world, I know you said there's not many, Ben, but what positive changes do you think the business world ultimately will get from COVID? What will we learn from this? How will our operations evolve?
Look, I think the negatives are, of course, what's happened with the economies globally, what's happened with a number of business sectors, and that's going to take a long time to recover. But there are more than one positive. I think if we look at three areas that spring to mind is definitely digitalisation. Then also people have gone from, Zoom is now part of the general conversation, whether it's Zoom or Teams or all of these different methods. People still don't exactly know how to use them properly. So you do perpetually spend every start of the meeting asking people to mute their mics, turn the camera on. But taking that jokes aside, I think there's now a much wider understanding of how to do that. And I think finally is the work from home, mobility, mobile work, as well as office type scenario. I don't think we're going to see globally what some early pundits mentioned, that offices will become redundant and people won't have offices, because I think, like everything, there's a balance. But what it has done is similar to what it's done with the Chamber in forcing our hand digitalisation-wise. It's also made a lot of companies rethink how they've got their staff working. is a 2-hour transit in and out of work every day useful for those employees if they can spend 2 or 3 days a week or a rotating roster working from home? And I think with all of these tools available, a lot of complimentary or free, I think it's allowed a lot of businesses to really work on how they can modernize their workforce. And in speaking with a lot of business leaders in the past, they would have said, I absolutely would never let people work from home. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to work. Whereas when I've engaged with a lot of our members recently, they've been surprised to say, actually, our teams are more productive in a lot of ways because they wake up, they're doing work, they're working around their personal commitments, whether it's kids, family, fitness, whatever they've got, but they are able to contribute and in a lot of ways more productively than they would than sitting in the famous Bangkok traffic. So I think they're the 3 big things that we've taken away from this scenario that will really evolve business moving forward as we resume hopefully normal day-to-day lives.
Brendan, what are your thoughts?
I think this is one of the few benefits. We've said a few benefits. We're not I think there were many, but the working, I'm not going to call it working from home because I think the concept of working from home will disappear, but the more flexible work style is what it will become. And it will depend on your job. It will depend on your company. Novotel Bangkok Sukhumvit 20, you can't have a lot of your employees working at home. They need to be in the hotel. But then I'm speaking with other members who are looking at their sales team and wondering, why are you even in the office at all? Why do you even have a desk? Get there. So I think it'll really depend on your job and the style of people. I think some people like to be in the office. Particularly, I'm speaking with people who've got kids at home. Great, I had a chance to spend time with my kids. I've got no work done because my kids making noise or keep wanting to play. So it's going to depend on the people. It's going to depend on their style of job. But the thing that's really exciting is that I think we have a chance to create what the new working style is. Rather than sit back and wait and adapt when it comes, I think companies are in a position to be leaders on it and say, this is where our people work best. This is what we're going to do to get the best out of our people. So that's the exciting part for me in terms of the future workforce.
What I've seen as a common thread is those who have at least visibly succeeded have been firms like Grant Thornton or like yourselves who already had a good strategy that was working and you were able to quickly pivot it. Obviously that doesn't work for manufacturing or other industries, but as a service provider, if you already have a good plan, you can adapt it quickly. So I think the ones who have a solid sense of who they are, their brand, who they represent, what they're trying to achieve, not just in terms of sales, but in terms of positioning and branding. It seems that those companies have survived out of this. Like even looking at many of our competitors, I've been surprised at how quiet a lot of people have been. Like this is a time for empathy. It's a time for helping others, right? So even if it's a time of crisis, I think the phrase thought leadership really is the key to at least online success in the service industry over the coming years. And it has been for a few years. Like, be helpful. That's it. Like, serve as make yourself essential to the community by being helpful. It sounds easy, I know, but I think the companies that are really willing to take that approach are going to be the ones who come out of this best, and they can adapt their business model because their objective that they're working towards is already to beacon for the team to follow. Okay, so Ben, I don't know you,
Dave. I think what you say and knowing your own brand, etc., is so important, of course. But knowing your customers, or we call them members, is also imperative. So, as I mentioned, we reacted to what our members wanted immediately, not so much what we wanted to do, but what they wanted. So I'd imagine a lot of the companies who have done well have immediately, knowing their customers, adapted to, this is what our customers want. This is how we need to adapt to help them.
Absolutely. And those kind of insights to the brand and the audience are like the core of any strategic enterprise, because you need to know who you are and what you want to say. and you need to know who you're speaking to so you can craft your message. And that's not just in terms of what you wish to communicate, but also, as you know, through targeting and ROI and all that kind of stuff. So these are solid lessons for everybody, that spend the rest of this year making that stuff clear to yourself, so that whatever happens next year or in the second or third waves, a good brand and a good audience insight is going to allow you to adapt. That's not in the service industry, at least. We can't do much about factories, unfortunately. Okay, guys, so this has been, for me at least, the work from home experience was brand new. Prior to this, I would spend all my hours waking in the office, and then I would get away at the weekend. So I didn't even have a comfortable table or chair at home. It was a lot of IKEA shopping had to be done during the first couple of months. But for you guys, what has been the process like of adapting to work from home? What have been the essential things that you've had to do or purchase or use during this period? Maybe it is the desk or the daily call with your team, or maybe it's the 5 p.m. gin and tonic, whatever it is. What has been the thing that you guys have found essential?
I've been maybe one of the rarer ones that I didn't actually ever work from home. My business has maintained itself during that time. So the Novotel Bangkok Sukhumvit 20. However, there have been some modifications. So I did have to go out and get a decent webcam and audio, because after I heard the terrible echo on my first few conference calls and how critical I am of others, I went out, and luckily I've got a hotel that has that, so I just borrowed one from the conferencing floor. But we are having discussions as to how that side of is going to need to be enhanced. So we are going to need to purchase a lot more of those good quality webcams and audios and echo cancelling microphones and those sort of things, because we see a lot of hybrid meetings will start to emerge, whereby people, based on travel restrictions, can't have multinational events moving forward in the short period. And then I think the other side is really understanding the differences between, Zoom and Teams and so forth. Teams has been actually quite a surprising great tool, because it integrates with all of my internal network. So all of my work conference calls are done through Teams, and it integrates with my Outlook and everything. And then really understanding, I've also got responsibilities for another 9 hotels apart from mine. So being able to engage with those teams digitally when I couldn't travel early on, and just changing the way that you incorporate your time. One thing I've learned a lot, and it's not really talking about working from home, but in this current situation, it's very easy to schedule back-to-back meetings on video calls, but you need to still make sure you're allowing yourself some time in between to do your other day-to-day work, as well as allow conference calls to run over time like a normal meeting process, because it's really easy to jam up 8 hours of day on conference calls and then not being able to do your primary roles.
Equipment-wise, we didn't need to purchase much, or I didn't need to purchase much. All I needed was my kitchen table at home and chair, which I had. Actually, my wife brought me a nice comfy chair. I'd like to thank her for that. An important thing for me as well is that you could see the banner in the background. I'm Brendan AustCham when I'm at the office, so I made sure I took banners home as well. So no matter where I was, if you're on a call with me, I was always Brendan AustCham, not Brendan at home, which I think was also important. In terms of dealing with the team, we scheduled 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock Zoom calls every day, where we'd say, this is what we're going to do, then catch up at the end of the day. Very important. And we never missed those calls. I will say on that, we were lucky that we have an established team. I did note sometime during the phase that if we had just employed someone who wasn't already in gel with our team, I think they would have struggled with the online. I think going into an office still has a very important purpose, that building relationships that you can't do online. And finally, on what I'd say is a lighter note, is just keeping routine. I made sure I was still up at 5 in the morning. As I always do, I'd get out and go for a walk or different things, and then you're obviously able to start work a bit earlier as well. But I was also able to watch the news, the ABC. And Dennis Horton, one of our members, challenged me to do 25 push-ups in 25 days. And that gave me a routine. I would do that every afternoon. I got my son involved as well. We'd go to different places around where I lived, and we'd drop and do 25 push-ups recorded on video, and that provided another nice little light-hearted routine for me. So, yeah, that's what worked for me.
Yeah, that was good to see as well, mate. It was good that in a time where everybody was kind of understandably miserable because of what was happening, it was good to see things like that. You know, you and your family out and about doing fun stuff. It was good. It was good.
It helped me too. Sometimes I was feeling a bit miserable, and it just brought me back. And I'd go and do these push-ups recorded, and I'd always feel better after it. So it was a small thing, but an important one.
Oh, good work on that, mate. All right, so thank you for your time, guys. As you said, Ben, I'm sure there's more calls to get to. Before we wrap up, though, so I've been a member of AustCham for a few years, and it is the best ROI of anything we've ever done in terms of marketing, because as a small organization, it's helped us to plug into the wider community. We've received guidance, advice. We've helped to position ourselves as thought leaders through the chamber. It's not very expensive, and you get so many benefits from it, including reduced price tickets to events. So if somebody watching this is keen to get involved in the chamber, what should they do?
Contact me.
Okay.
Or any of our directors, or you, and you can introduce them to me.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, look, I think a big success of our chamber has traditionally always been our networking events, and they've got a great vibe and a great feeling, but they still are business networking events, and we've seen massive amounts of people, and we constantly have people that say, wow, you know, this event, this single event, usually the Sundowners, is all that I need to know. Where do I sign up? And it's literally that much. But then on the other side, it's been great that I think for other members to be aware, we do make a clear distinction. We try to provide as much for the greater business community, but we do provide a lot of extra benefits for our members, whether it's in line with a discount, whether it's in line with exclusive access. As events start resuming, there's a lot of exclusive events with some key sponsors. We get great, amazing access and support from the Australian Embassy and the Ambassador. So again, these are two scenarios that if you aren't in the chamber, you normally wouldn't get that sort of level of access. And like you've mentioned, Brendan and I and the entire board, we wake up every day and look at what we can deliver for our members. So as soon as you're part of that membership base, hopefully, as you've mentioned, and you're a great advert for us, David, but hopefully you then see a great ROI. And if you're not, you pick up the phone to me, to Brendan, to any of the board, and you say, hey, is this something we can have a look at? And we'll always have a look at it. We really love engaging with our members. And I think that's why we've got such a good understanding of what our members want and why we've been able to pivot so quickly in this current situation.
Yeah, and that totally comes through as a member. I'm a member of many chambers, and each of them has their strengths, but it's always you guys that I feel really dedicate themselves to understanding the members' needs and helping us to connect to each other and to grow together. So I thank you on behalf of all of the membership.
And thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Much appreciated.
All right. Okay, guys, so that's it. Thank you for your time this morning. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Well, Dave, if I could give a quick plug, as I mentioned, we are doing the AustCham Member Focus series. We're up to episode 5 on Friday, which is focused on interns. We have another 3 scheduled for next week, including Friday the 19th, focus on communications with Lexicon. I'll see you in your office.
Okay. Cheers, mate. Actually, stay on the call. We'll discuss that after this. But for now, thank you, guys, and I'll see you again very soon.
Thanks so much, David.
Cheers.